The Nanodose Podcast.
The Nanodose Podcast.
The Nanodose Podcast. The
Nanodose
Podcast. The Nanodose Podcast. The Nanodose Podcast. The Nanodose Podcast. The Nanodose.
You've been Nanodose. Welcome to the Nanodose Podcast. Of course, I am your host, Shiva, and this is a podcast where real life and real conversations meet intentional living. Guys, I'm so elated that you chose the Nanodose Podcast this afternoon, this morning, this evening. So I'm happy you chose to be here. Today, we are going to be engaging in another meaningful conversation. And by the title of today's episode, Financial Management and Mismanagement, you know where we are going. You know what we're going to be talking about today. That is money, right? And that is something that affects every Jamaican adult. Today, we don't want to talk about just making money, but we want to also talk about managing money in a system that often feels stacked against you. Even here in Jamaica, an average worker earns about $160,000 per month before taxes. And after expenses, you now have to ask the question, is the average Jamaican financially mismanaging their money, or is it the system itself making financial progress difficult? So then we're going to break everything down, and we're going to tap into most of the different faculties of, the financial cycle. And to help unpack this is Mr. Kadeem Leslie. Of course, he's a Jamaican author, entrepreneur, and a thought leader who has built a strong reputation around youth development, personal growth, and intentional living. Help me welcome everyone, Kadeem Leslie.
Hello, great to be here. Great to be here. We'll hold for the applause.
Yes. Trust me, they're clapping. All right, Kadeem. So to start things off, what is the biggest sign that a fellow Jamaican is mismanaging money?
Okay, so before I go, I just want to, for those of the listeners who don't know who I am, so my name is Kadeem Leslie. I'm the two-time best-selling author of Full Student and Full Money. I manage over like $15 million of real estate. I've been financially free for the last maybe 5 or 6 years, and I've been traveling the world full-time for the last 2 years. Just so you know that this is someone who knows what they're talking about. Cool. And we have over 5,000 students across the world in, I think, 180 countries. So we're going to get into some stuff today. So then what's actually the first sign that someone's mismanaging their money? This is actually the best question, I think, to start with. And it has to do with peace of mind. If you have to worry about how something costs or how much something costs when you go to bed at nighttime, probably something that is a problem. So I'll give you this scenario. If you are $1 billion, but you go to bed at night dreaming of getting to 10 billion, okay, that person is very stressed. However, because they have now a 1 billion to 10 billion, that's a $9 billion gap, right? Bear in mind, if someone else wants to be at 100, right, and they're currently at 150,000, that person is living a much better life in their mind than the person who's at $1 billion. Why? Because they have more than they need. And when it comes to your mental state, when it comes to finances, that's a very key point. Because at the end of the day, you want to be able to sleep at night, low cortisol levels, and cortisol is just stress. If you can sleep at night, whatever stage you are, and lower those wants way below what you're earning, you're going to live a fantastic life.
Totally understand. I hope everybody caught that, because I sure did. So let's even break it down further. I mentioned earlier that a typical Jamaican, they earn an average of $160,000. Really and truly, statistics show it's between 120 and 180. The average of that is 160, right? So when we take out, the housing, the utilities, public transport, car loans, food, all that, expenses, there is little to nothing left. So I started with this question, but I really want you to delve a little into it. Is it really the person trying to live, right? Or the system is not set up in such a way for that person to afford life?
So then I love this question because I get this question in every part of the world.
Mhm.
And the excuse of, oh no, it's the country or the system or it's the economy exists in every single economy. And here's the thing, before I actually get to the answer, the thing about excuses is that whatever your excuse is, you are right. Every single excuse that you can think of, it makes sense. Yeah, think about it. You're a single mom. Why would you aspire to be $10 million in? You're a single mom. That makes sense. You don't need to do it. You have ADHD. You're right. It's hard. Why would I expect you to go and do, you're right. Every excuse that you can have, you're right. That's the thing that makes them so tempting to fall into, is that you can get into this world of, yeah, the system is against me. Yes, you're right. The system is against you. Yet still, here's the answer that you're looking for. In every single economy in the world, there are people at the top. Every single economy. There are people who own the gas stations. There are people who own the shops. There are people who own the banks. There are people who own the bars, the cafes. They're every single country in the world. There are people who own these things. You have people who started them in their lifetime. Now, the reason why I say that is because if we live in a world today where you can start a store, where you can even work online, where you can do so many amazing things with the internet, the phone that you're listening to this on, then the excuse of the system is against me just doesn't work. Because even if you're in Jamaica, all of your clients could be in the United States. Every single one. You don't have to talk to anybody in Jamaica to make money. Then, if we're talking realistically, that's the thing about excuses, is that it makes sense. And you're right. You're right. Jamaica is against you. And so is the US. And so is the credit card system and the banks. They're all against you. You're right. However, comma, asterisk, it's against everybody else too. So then you can either say, because of that, I'm not going to do anything, or despite that, I'm going to push through.
But if we're supposed to look at the upper spectrum now of persons that are earning here in Jamaica, say they're earning over 500,000 upwards, right? Um, they also are feeling the burden. They're saying too that they're stretched. So what's the gap in those households?
So one thing that you should know, one of the easiest ways to make sure that you have no money at the end of the month, despite how much you're earning, is to keep increasing how much you're spending every single month. Now, one of the things that you should realize that I think is between 60 to 80% of Americans who earn over $120,000, so that's 10x as much as what we're describing here. Even at 10x the amount, they're still living paycheck to paycheck. Most Americans cannot afford a $1,000 emergency, which is equivalently around 160,000. It's the same thing without going into debt. No, the reason why I tell you these numbers is that even though they're earning 10 times as much, they're still spending it all. But then that's why we started this entire conversation with, if you are actually spending way below, so if you are 150, but you're spending 100, that is actually how you maintain your peace. What happens to those guys? I'll tell you because I see it so often. You start earning 500,000, and now you start hanging with other friends who also earn 500,000. And now you say to yourself, okay, he has a BMW, I'm going to get a Mercedes. They go to Punta Cana, I'm going to go to Italy. And it becomes a race to the bottom, and everybody is trying to compete on how much they're spending. What that word is called conspicuous consumption. In theory, all it means is we're trying to keep up with the Joneses. Will Smith said it best. We are trying to impress the people with the money that we have, and we're trying to impress people that don't even like us. It doesn't make sense, right? So then that's what happens to people who have $500,000 jobs, is that they start to increase their life to 500,000. They spend more on their houses, for example, and they have nicer cars. Here's the solution to that. That's where it starts. The beginning of this conversation that we said, you have to start with managing your wants. So I'll give you a personal example. For me, I earn a lot of money every month. But look at my clothes. Well, you can't see my clothes, but you'll never see me in Gucci vase, and even though I can buy it, right? I tell you, I made a mistake. My very first car was a Mercedes Benz. That was a mistake. And I'll tell you right now, don't do that. My next car, right now I'm traveling the world, so I don't have a car. My next car will be a Toyota, right? This, again, we started the conversation. We know how much real estate there is. I'm fully retired, right? Traveling the world. And I'm telling you
Yeah.
that it's really managing your expectations. Many people fall into this trap because that's an emotional battle and not financial one. You can easily earn more because we can get to how to earn more money, but the emotional battle that nobody's seeing, that's a lot harder to fight because nobody sees it.
Nobody sees it. Right, right, right. And I'm glad you even went in that direction of, buying a Mercedes Benz. I want to say prematurely, but when you can afford it. But tell me more about it because we're going to be going now into car debt, right? Because a lot of Jamaicans, what they do, they tend to go for the expensive cars. These days, the Kias and the Jetours are very popular amongst 20, 30-year olds, especially.
All right.
Do you think too many Jamaicans are buying cars before they can actually afford them? Or even so, when is the best time to buy a car, a luxury
Well,
car?
okay, so then there are some rules that you have to follow. And I can't give a blanket statement because it does depend on your situation. However, here's what we can say for the most part, because what people do is lie to themselves about what I'm about to say on whether it classifies or not. What I can say to you is that in your 20s and your 30s, you need to be buying assets. And so most people, your car is not an asset, your house is not an asset, your college degree is not an asset. This is very controversial, but I'm going to defend it and I can show you the statistics. Because an asset is something that gives you a financial return in comparison to something else. So, for example, most college degrees take about 20 years to break even, yet still, I think it's about 40% actually don't. For example, you went to school for music, probably not going to break even, right? If you went to school for engineering, obviously, if you went to school to be a doctor, yes, that makes sense. Most people are not going to school to be doctors. As we know, people are going to school to be teachers. Doesn't give you a return on investment. You do the same thing for the houses. Most people are not making money on their houses because houses generally take about 10 to 13 years to break even. Most people don't stay in their houses for 10 to 13 years. They sell and they move. Most people don't. And then in that time, you're only paying to the house because you have to pay taxes. Something goes wrong, you have to pay for it, maintenance, etc., utilities. Now, real estate makes money. People's houses are very different. I'll give you the third one, which is what we talked about with cars. Most people overpay for their cars. Bought my Mercedes cash. Most people would be better off buying a much cheaper car, Toyota Corolla, than investing the difference. Is where most people get it wrong. They don't invest the difference. They save that money and then they go spend it in the club. Mistake. Why does that make sense? Mathematically, people don't explain the end goal. So I'll actually explain why it makes sense mathematically. Because in your 20s and 30s, you have time. And what it looks like, for example, Warren Buffett, he's over $100 million in right now. But he started investing when he was 12. Most of his wealth, 90, I think it's 98%, something crazy, came after his 50th birthday. Think about that. He's at $100 billion right now. Once in the top 10. Most of that came after his 50th birthday. That's how fast wealth compounds. Now the reason, and I think he's 94 now or something like that. Some he's up there. But the reason I say these things is because you're not giving your money enough time to compound. You have this is a cultural thing that it's a bit more difficult to address cultural issues. But we if you look at, civilizations like, in Europe or in the US, they've had more time to think generations ahead. In Jamaica is less than 100 years old. It's not as old as some of these civilizations, right? But if you can think just in decades instead of years or months, people are not willing to. You're going to be 50 anyway. You're going to be 40 anyway. But people aren't thinking about it. You're going to be 60 anyway. And I can't tell you how many 60-year-olds I meet right now wish they had made different decisions in their 20s and their 30s because they didn't imagine that their 60s would be that hard. They retired at 65, I know they're back working at 75 because they didn't have enough. You can avoid that pain. Trust me, the pain having to go back to work at 75 is way more than missing a few nights at the club now. Because money is cheaper in the future, you're sacrificing, let's say $1 right now. Every dollar that you sacrifice right now in 50 years is potentially like $10,000. That's really how wide the gap is. And every dollar that you spend, you're throwing $10,000 away for your retirement. Just think about how drastic that is, right? So then if you do the math, you just stop spending in your 20s and 30s because this is the time where you should be building anyway. It doesn't make sense. Who are you trying to impress? Because at 60, when you have nothing, you're on your own. You know what I'm saying? So many people would say, oh man, when I was younger, I was balling. But now you're on the street corner every day. Is that really what you want?
Absolutely not. You mentioned investing, and let's go right there. In Jamaica, they're gonna say, well, the money just don't stretch that far enough. We can't find enough to even save.
Mhm.
Where do we even start when it comes on to investing? There's so many questions as to the first thing to do.
Okay,
Um,
no problem. I will start that right now for you. No problem. So then this is something that obviously my book, Full Money, you should get it. It's in Kingston Bookshop. It's in Sandstone. It's on Amazon. It's a fantastic book. And it will explain this and what I'm about to say very clearly. It's 400 pages. It's literally the only book that you'll need on financial freedom. Okay. So let's talk about it. There's 4 steps to this. So I'll explain them all. You need income. Now, income can be you're an NBA player, you're a golf player, you're a policeman, you're a teacher, you wash cars, you sell bag juice. Doesn't matter. You need income.
mhm,
Now, school, people go to school. This is all that school is trying to accomplish. Get you to earn the max income that you can. Notice that I said it's literally the first step. You're missing 3 more steps.
right?
Then the second is assets. You need assets. So the reason why we get to assets next is because even if you're a teacher, there are some assets that you can buy. I'm not saying that you go and buy a credit union. That's not what I'm saying. You can't buy a gas station yet. That's not your play, right? You're a doctor. Yeah, think about buying a gas station. But if you're a teacher, what can you do? You start a vending machine. You start an Airbnb business, right? You start maybe a corner shop. Everybody here can set up a tent and sell hot dogs. Everybody. That's you. But you have to put your money, every single dollar that you earn extra, into assets. I'm going to come back to your first question because I haven't forgotten. But the next step after assets is investments. So then you take all the money that you earn from your job and you go into assets. Set up that corner shop, set up that hot dog stand, set up that vending machine, doesn't matter. All of that money, you go 1 vending machine, 2 vending machine, 3 vending machine, those are your assets. Take those vending machine money, all that vending machine money, and you put that into another asset. Now, the vending machine money is paying for a car rental company. The vending machine money is paying for a nail salon. Now you have assets and then you have investments. The investments paid for by your assets. And after you get to your investments, the last step, the fourth step is then lifestyle. You only spend what your investments make you. Most people skip the middle 2 steps. Most people go from income straight to lifestyle. Mistake. Again, you might be thinking, oh, is it because I don't earn enough? No, I'm going to come to that. But I want you to think about NBA players for a second. How many NBA players that you know earn millions of dollars and then they go broke? Why do you think that is? It's because they don't have the middle 2 things. It's not a matter of how much money, it's how you're earning money. Because once they stop playing in the NBA, that income is done and they don't have any assets or investments to carry them into their lifestyle.
Mhm.
But you can see people are playing it very differently now. Stephen Curry, all these actors, they get into real estate, they have brands, they have marketing agencies, they have record labels. Now they understand it. This is what we're trying to solve here. On a smaller scale, you can go and start a record label. That's fine. But you must have some asset. It could be a vending machine, your real estate, etc. I think you get the point. Okay, cool. Now let's move on. So the question that you asked first, now that we have the formula, was okay, what about income? I don't have enough. Yeah, well, you know what? There's 2 things that we got to say. One, setting up these 4 steps could take a decade. I'm going to be honest. It took me when I decided that I wanted to be financially free when I was 15 years old and I had no plan. right? And it took me 9 years, 9 years to actually do it. 9 years. It could take you a decade, could take you 2 decades, but you only need to do this once because of the formula that we just said. Because if your assets are paying for your investments and your investments are paying for your lifestyle, then your assets are going to keep making you richer every single month. And all you need to do is only spend what the investments make you. You only need to do this once. That's the first thing. This could take you a decade. Second thing is that, yeah, it is hard and you might need to get a second job. Oops. You might need to increase your income, which might be a part of that 10-year plan. Yes, I was a cellist and a music teacher, which means that I had to practice hours a day for many years to increase that income. And then I became a teacher. So now I had two incomes and I put all of that money into my first businesses, following the exact plan that I'm laying out for you. No, and it's not, understand that it's not my plan. It's the pattern of everywhere in the world. Everybody who's on top owns the same things. They own businesses, they own real estate, and they own investments. That is it. And they started with income because you have to get money from somewhere. You start with the income, you go to assets, investments, and lifestyle. And if you follow this formula, if it takes you a decade, you only need to do it once.
To do it once. When is the best time that, or the right time that an average Jamaican should start thinking about doing something like this, investing?
Of course, right now.
Now.
You first of all, if you're listening to this right now, you should be taking notes, first of all, because this is free game that we're giving you. That's so you should be taking notes from what we're talking about. That's the first thing. Second, the right time would have been 10 years ago, right?
Uh-huh.
The second best time is no, you're already behind. You haven't started yet. If you're thinking about starting right now, you're already behind. So questioning on whether okay, let me tell you this. There are two things. If you invest, you might lose money. I'll tell you. Yeah, I'll be honest. But if you don't invest, you are 100% losing money right now.
There you go.
Which one would you choose? So you
That,
might lose money if you invest, but if you don't invest, you are definitely losing money. That's as simple as I can put it for you. There
yeah.
is no choice for you to be in the race. I'll put it this very, very simply so that we can understand it over the airwaves, okay? The bank, when you save your money, let's say they pay you 3%, 5%, which they don't. I'll get to what the actual figure is in a second. They pay you 3%, 5% on your savings, right? But then inflation is 6, 7, 8%. What does that mean? It means that you're losing money. And then you might be saying, oh, well, if I could get 6%, 7%, okay, cool. No bank does that because that's not how banks work. But then what they actually pay you, and you should go check this in your savings account, the average savings rate in Jamaica, and I know this because I've done my research, and it's pretty much the same around the world, is less than 1%. It's 0.2%. That's the average savings rate. So they're paying you literally nothing. Just keep your money in the bank. 0.2%. And inflation is 4%, 5%, which means that you're losing money for sure. The saving money doesn't make sense. Besides your emergency fund, which is 3 to 6 months of expenses, saving anything above that is ludicrous. It makes absolutely no sense. And then every dollar above those 3 to 6 months of expenses must be invested into assets and then investments, which is how you break the cycle.
So we spoke about wealth building, but the truth of the matter is a lot of Jamaicans are also in debt. So they would say too that, well, the debt is keeping me from building wealth. So off the bat, what are some warning signs that someone is financially extended, and how too can they get rid of debt?
Okay, so first, there's a snowball method, which is you take on one credit card and pay that down to zero and then pay the next one. Dave Ramsey is very good at explaining this. So I would suggest just going to Dave Ramsey because he's the master at getting your debt back to zero. But in addition to that, you still need to go through the steps, which is Dave Ramsey didn't become a billionaire today by having zero debt. He did it by building assets. His media empire and his real estate empire, those are assets. So you need to follow what he did, not just what he says. But then, yes, pay down your debt. Here's the thing. Here's why debt steals from you. The average credit card is, let's say it's 20%, 30%. And even if you get 10% from stocks, that's less than what you're paying for your credit cards. If you have $10,000 in debt, $10,000 in stocks, you're going to be losing money because the debt is expensive debt. Now, does that mean that you can't use debt? No. Business debt, for example, is 10%, 6%, 5%, 3%. These are great rates, right? So then, at 3%, you can even put the money in the stock market if you have a loan at 3% and make 7% between the stock market. Not getting technical here, but the point is, if the debt is cheap enough, it makes sense. Now, Dave Ramsey would disagree. That's fine. I don't. I'm saying to you, is getting your debt down to zero should be a top priority for you, especially if it's very high debt. That could take you 5 years out of your 15-year plan. Yeah, you made a mistake. Suck it up, tough it out, do it. Because it's either you get rid of that or the next 20, 25 years for you are going to be very hard. Not okay? Especially if you have credit card debt. Credit card debt is first. Now, if you have a mortgage, it's different. That tends to be under 10% or 10% thereabout. If you have other debt, like student loan debt, that's fine. Uh, that's a bit different from credit card debt. But credit card debt, you got to get rid of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe I should have asked this question first, though. Is debt good or bad?
So if debt is making money in and of itself, then it's good. So here's where people get confused about this. So people will take out debt, which is what we talked about in the beginning, to go to school. But that debt be or it cannot be good, depending on if it makes you back money. This is a multi-layered answer. So I'll give you all the multiple sides of this. We're talking about investing in degrees, people who are 18, 17, 16, with parents who've never been to college, and we're telling them that this is a good investment without telling them all of the facets or angles that makes an investment a good one.
Uh-huh.
So for example, if you're going to pay for a degree, just because you get a degree doesn't mean that it's good. For example, if I tell you that this house is worth $20 million, I tell you that I want you to pay $40 million for it. Would you say yes? Of course not. But we understand that. But we do that for degrees all the time because you don't even know how much your degree should cost. Most people don't talk about that. Then how is it that we're sending 17 and 18-year-olds into debt when they don't know if they're getting a good deal or not? Most people are not. That's a very so then we start right there. Most people are overpaying for their degree. Hey, was on a full scholarship, and I'm telling you, I would not have paid for my degree at all. It was not worth it. And then if I had paid for it, I have a full scholarship. If I had paid for my entire college year, it would have been, I think it would have been $60,000 that semester. But that's 120. It would have been maybe $500,000 by the time it was finished. 4 years. Only 4 years because I also did the master's. But let's just say it's 4 years, okay? It was $500,000 of debt if I had paid for everything outright. The value I would have placed on my college degree, and it's not anything to do with my college. My college was great. The value on my degree, what I learned inside of the classroom that I believe I could have learned on my own, would have been maybe $10,000.
Yeah.
That's how much people would have overpaid if they paid in cash. Think about that. You paid 100x more. That's how much people are paying for their college degree. And so then you need to sit down and do the math on whether this investment makes sense, if that's the type of language you're going to actually use. Are you overpaying for it? Does the rate make sense? What are the payment terms? That's the first thing. To get back to your good debt versus bad debt. Good debt is debt that pays for itself. And then if you're taking out debt to go and get an office and you're a lawyer, the office does not pay for you to be a lawyer. That degree might, but the office doesn't.
Uh-huh.
Versus if you're a lawyer and you take out debt to start a car wash business, even if you don't go to that car wash makes you money. That makes sense. But then we have to take out debt that is very closely, like immediately related, not second or third or 5 steps removed. Not if I do this, like if I get clients, then the office would pay for itself and then I'll grow in 10 years. No, we're not doing that. It has to be immediately related because That's how businesses operate. And debt was always meant for businesses. If I take out this debt, I'm going to sell this amount, which is why it makes sense.
Right.
If I take out $1 million, I'm going to make 2.5, which is why the debt makes sense. Even if the debt costs me 10%, I'm going to make 300%. That makes sense. That's how businesses think. Then, unless you're thinking about a business, you shouldn't even have debt.
Well said, well said. None of those, as I hope you're taking notes. I believe some gems are dropping here on this podcast. And yes, Kadeem, you are definitely dropping all the gems. But to summarize everything that we would have been speaking about, want to put this into practical terms, right? So I am going to give you some real life financial scenarios. And then based on the scenarios, you're going to tell me if this is a financial mismanagement or management and what should be done differently. All
Go
right,
for
there
it.
are 5 questions. Pretty simple. Let's get to that. All right. So someone earns $180,000 monthly. They upgrade their lifestyle, new food, new outings, better clothes, but saves less than 5% of their income.
It's mismanagement. So then here's the thing. Here's how you know when you're free. This is the question that's going to rock everybody on this who's listening. Everybody's going to be rocked by this. If you lost your job tomorrow, how many months could you survive? Right. So then that person who only has $9,000, even if they saved for an entire year, that person could only, how long could they survive? Weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in trouble. They're in trouble. So then I hope that rocked you just now and you heard that because you need to be thinking like that. Because if I lost my job, for first of all, I don't have a job, but that was my question. I don't need a job because I can survive forever without one. That is the question that you should be asking yourself. Until you can say forever, you are in trouble.
Here we go with another one. A young professional takes a car loan where 35% of their monthly income goes towards the vehicle.
So for that person, I would say you should be driving Uber if that car is not sellable at the moment. You should turn that liability into an asset right away. And if you're in Jamaica right now, Uber's drivers are doing well. You can
Yes, they
do it in
are.
your spare time. So I would recommend everyone use that extra time if you have that car. So then that goes from either making you profit or you can eliminate that from 30 down to 10%, 5%. Okay. That's on you. You made a mistake, but that's how you correct that. Now, if you don't have the time, what I would tell you is that you do have the time. Less Netflix. Say no to your friends more because they cannot help you. And, you're going to probably have to lose some sleep. Right. So then now you're not staying in until 11 o'clock on a Saturday. You're up 8 o'clock to work. Let's go. Yeah, you made a mistake and this is the cost of it.
All right. So a couple rushes to buy a house because renting is wasting money, but they have no emergency fund. Management or mismanagement?
So, okay, this is a misnomer. One, real estate doesn't make as much money as people think it does. The best use of your money is starting a business that prints cash. Many businesses print cash. The second is real estate. The third is investments. Investments take time,
Uh-huh.
2 or 3 decades. You can get really good in real estate, within 20 years, within 2 decades. Businesses, you can you can change your life with the right business in less than 5 years. That's very quick comparative to the other two. Now, the reason why I'm telling you that is you might think again, we have to talk about investments. You might think that the return on investment for you buying a home makes sense, but it might not be because you might be better off putting your money into starting a business that will earn more money and then just renting and saving that difference. Then, for example, you have to put a down payment. If your down payment is $3 million, you use that $3 million, and then now every single year your business prints $1.5 million.
Uh-huh.
It's a much better use of that money because your house definitely won't print that because you live there.
Yeah.
Now you took that $3 million and it's gone. Most people get their first house and they realize that problem, which is why they should have started with the business first. And then here's something that we can talk about, which is you might be thinking again, you need to start your business in Jamaica and you may not. You can use Facebook ads, Google ads, and you can reach people all over the world. Learn how to do a business online. You no longer need to start your business just in Jamaica. We're living in a different time. Let's go, people.
I love that point, by the way. Let me reiterate it. You can reach literally the world with social media and just the online presence. We are not limited by a country. Once upon a time, that was true, but not anymore. I love that point. All right, so going into the fourth question, a working adult supports multiple family members, leaving little room for saving.
So I want to tell you that you have to be a bit selfish when it comes to your financial independence because it's the same. And this is what I will say when it comes to selfishness, because I want to tell you the story. The story is when you're in a plane, they tell you that you need to fix your own oxygen mask first before you can help others. Because if you don't fix your oxygen mask first and you pass out, both of you are dead.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't fix your oxygen mask first, it's a problem. No, the asterisk is it's not just selfishness, it's benevolent selfishness. I'll repeat, it's benevolent selfishness. What does that mean? It means I need to fill up my cup so that I have enough to give to you. But if I have nothing in my cup, both of us are in trouble. If I go broke, who's going to take care of everybody? Now, if I allow that money to compound for 3, 5 years, 7 years, 15 years, then now I can give you a piece and you can start your business. Now I have enough information to help them. So that I will tell you, you're not actually helping them by helping them right now. Best thing that you can do is to become the best version of yourself. And you can actually give them money to start their own business. Now you can say, hey, I have 3 franchises. I want to open the 4th one, and you're going to hire everybody in your family. That's how you help your family. You're not helping them by helping them with bar tools and their light bill right now. Stop it.
Listen to Kadeem, guys. Final question. A person earns well but never invests. They just save.
Mismanagement. You are losing money, is what we explained earlier. If you are earning if you're earning anything from your bank, it is probably 1%, 2%, and inflation alone is beating that, which means at the end of the year, everything that you saved is now worth less. In the last 100 years, the US dollar itself, Jamaican, US dollar, has lost 97% of its value. 97%. Since 2020, the US dollar has lost 25%, which means a dollar in 2020 now buys only 75 cents. If you think that that's going to change, you are mistaken. What savings does. Your money loses value. So then if you don't invest, you are 100% losing value.
Guys, I hope you guys were informed. I know we could have gone so much deeper, Kadeem, and so much longer because when we're looking at finances, there's so many things we could
Oh, yeah,
touch.
for
But
sure.
we have to condense this episode today. And I really hope that everyone who is listening, they will do an introspection of where they are and where they are going and make the change if needs be. Kadeem, again, thank you so much. Repeat the name of your book and where we can find it.
Yes, it's Full Money. Full Money is a best-selling book. I'm very fortunate to be a 2-time best-selling author. Full Money, it's everything that you need about financial independence, everything that we talked about here, and trust me, so much more. It took me 6 years to write this book because I really wanted it to be just amazing. And so it broke records, it made history. And now it's in Kingston Bookshop, it's in Stanford's Bookshop, it's also on Amazon. So wherever you get the book, send me a message and let's connect. And you can find me on Instagram. I am KADE_. I sometimes don't see messages, but if you send me a couple messages, I respond. And, we have just a global community of people that are going in the same direction. So join us. Let's go.
Let's go. Guys, remember, financial success isn't just about how much you earn. It's about how you structure your life around the money, the choices you make about housing, debt, lifestyle, and investing matters. So think wisely and make the right choice today. Wonderful Nanodoses. Thank you for joining. You have been Nanodosed.